All right. Hello, everybody. This week, we're going to be talking about technology and exercise science. And I just want to first point out that this is older PowerPoint. Honestly, I could probably update this PowerPoint, every semester, and it would change quite dramatically, if not every year. Technology and exercise science, it's just like technology and anything else. It's constantly evolving. So some of the things we're going to talk about, well, most of the things are not going to be outdated, but some of the pictures you'll see are, there's improvements in the technology. And there's going to be a lot of things that I don't even touch upon as far as technology. I'll talk about those at the end of the lecture, and if you're interested, I can direct you to different resources where you can learn more about those technology. But we'll talk about these a few today in pretty good detail. Okay, so coaching applications. Again, not all exercise scientists, want to go into. Not all you guys want to go into coaching, but some carryover between research and coaching. So it says coaching applications, but understand that some of these things are used in research as well, which I'll talk about in a minute. Time motion analysis, we'll talk about what that is, and I'll give you a GPS. We'll talk a lot about. That's one piece of technology that's been around a long time, been around quite a while at UCF as well. Some cool things there. Biomechanical software, we won't get into too much, and apps and video recording. We won't really touch on those. Just know there's a ton of coaching apps. I think big one, but things are even rapidly evolving with just enhanced cameras on your phone and iPads that you can watch video record similar and analysis that you needed a high-speed camera 5 years ago. Okay. So again, here's time motion analysis. Okay. So it's analysis of actual game data and game movements. Depending on how much, honestly, financial backing the program has, be able to practice movements as well. But pretty much this is primarily focused on game movements. Now, why would we even want to analyze this? Well, because coaches, obviously, like the game of soccer, they need their athletes to spend the majority of the time in one place. There's different tactical operations that occur, and if you see a player like this player, well, I'm not sure honestly which is the, let's see, tackle, possession, effort. I can't remember which side. So this is obviously either a defender, this is a defender. But if you get this individual that he has a lot of more blue and yellow up here, you're gonna know you need to talk to that individual as a coach and from a tactical standpoint and say, hey, listen, you're spending too much time on their side of midfield. We need to spend more time, obviously, near our net. Okay. So analysis of game and potentially practice movements is non-invasive, usually has a video analysis or video unit, so sort of perched up, and it's the game. So not only is recorded, so you can actually see video, and coaches can go watch that, and potentially players as well. Gives you this data. Quantifies rate, how much work the athletes are doing. You can see here the arrows are the direction and length of their efforts. Okay. And then, as I said, provide insight into movement patterns. Okay. So this, I would say, is more applicable, in my opinion, to actual coaching staff rather than more sports performance, sports scientists, strength conditioning coaches. GPS, so global positioning systems. I think we all know what GPS is. It basically tracks our movement throughout space. It can track the speed of movement, as you can see here, the distance we run, time, various speeds, the number of sprints. Okay, and as I said, UCF was the first colleges to actually use GPS technology, and this was with the women team. So cool to be, you know, one of the first to use this data, and I believe it still continues today with UCF Sports Science Initiative. And I know one of our now PhD students for her master's thesis, she looked at what was it? She looked at differences in how environmental conditions affect distances, times, number of sprints per game in women's soccer. I believe UCF women's soccer, and differences based on humidity, temperature, etc. So if you want more info on that, I'll definitely give you your name and you can reach out. So here we can see just what these are. Again, these pictures are a little, but they haven't changed too much. Basically wear a vest under their jersey. You know, they're sort of like a sports bra looking thing. And this is connected to the back. Sometimes it's connected in different, most of the time it's up here between the shoulders. And it's pretty small here. You can see it about 2 golf, the size of those. Basically a little thing that goes in there. Don't really see it other than wearing a vest. Here we can see some actual data. I'm not going to go through this too much, but we can actually see the distance run, and HIR moving forward is high intensity runs. Okay, so here we have the same participant, the same athlete, how much distance they actually covered, and in different time segments, high intensity runs they also had in terms of distance as well. And high intensity runs, you can break it up into different segments, just like different, like maybe this is a jog, this is a fast jog, this is a sprint, and this is an all-out sprint. Different teams and different sports scientists break that up at different intensities, but this is just general high intensity runs. Okay, and here we can see a comparison between Friday and Sunday between the same individual, and this is in terms of distance run, and the next one is high intensity runs. So the difference, obviously we can see here based on these graphs that our high intensity runs actually were a lot lower, can't say significantly, but seem to be lower on our Sunday game as compared to Friday. And just so you guys know, again, I said I'm not encompassing presentation on technology, but I essentially did one of my studies was very similar to this, except we use what's called an inertial measurement unit, IMU, worn in the waistband of our UCF volleyball girls, and essentially measure jumping during games instead of, obviously soccer is a much more running based sport. Volleyball is much more jumping based sport. So we analyze jumps in different types of total jumps and high intensity, and we Friday versus Sunday matches among many things. We did positional based comparisons based on the number of sets played, a lot of different comparisons. So we're actually trying to get that study published right now. Here's a setup. This is an older setup. GPS technology has come a long way, but it's pretty much got the same setup. You got to have some kind of unit that you establish as that's the where you are located. So it's a receiver essentially, and then you have some kind of iPad, laptop setup that's essentially bringing that data from those units back into the whatever software you're using. Additional GPS units, I'm not going to take a lot of time to cover these, but as you guys know, there's GPS for runners as well, speed, pace, distance, mile time. These can be as easy as something worn on the wrist, just like a watch, okay? GPS for surfers as well, speed, wave count, distance traveled. This is something that I actually not too familiar with. but I did think it looked really cool, and I don't know how reliable, but would be something. Obviously, we're in Florida. I'm not from Florida, so I don't surf, but something you can look into if you're interested in that. Let's see. All right, and golfers, for those of you guys out there that are golfers, GP units are pretty I wouldn't say the norm, but they're pretty common at different lengths around the country and around the world. Okay. Another piece of technology is compression garments. This is they seem to be more worn in endurance type sports, especially in the lower legs, but we do see some in like basketball around the elbow and different types of sports. But the purposes, they say, provide compression of tissues, increase blood flow, and reduce inflammation. Um, but the studies out there, the evidence says that these compression garments probably don't have that much physiological or performance effects, but they don't really have detrimental effects. So that's one of those things that if it's not detrimental and runners or whoever athletes think that it helps them, then it probably does. Whether it's placebo or actual physiological benefits doesn't matter. If they think it helps and it doesn't actually physiologically hurt, well, it's probably good for them to wear. Okay, here you can see a few studies. Not going to go through these. You can read through these yourself, but CG is just compression garments. Okay, and then a review as well. Results are sort of inconclusive. So again, if it doesn't have detrimental effects and you want to wear it, go ahead. Cooling vests. I actually tried to find pictures because a bunch of the longer events in the Olympics, the 2020 Olympics, well, 2021, they came out in cooling vests because it was so hot there. And I tried to find some pictures, but they didn't have any. I did search, but these pre-cooling or keeping your body temperature low can enhance endurance performance, particularly in hot environments. But as far as sprint performance, it doesn't really have extra benefit. Different types. I know Nike has one that, in my opinion, is quite a bit better looking than these, but they all accomplish the same thing. There you can see a few, based on this study, a few of their findings. Again, this study is very old. I'm sure you can go through and find more updated research as far as that. Concussion detection. This is something that's, especially in the last 10 years, had gained so much popularity in football. If you want to go into a research topic or research route that has a lot of funding, go into concussion research. Detection, obviously CTE is a big issue with football players, and they're trying to figure out everything they can, from detection to prevention, return to play, all that stuff. So here you can read about Virginia Tech. They were one of the earlier schools and organizations that were on the forefront of researching different types of football helmets. And I believe they still have this. It's a little older, but I believe they still rate these helmets. So different helmets are obviously better or worse at preventing concussions. Okay. Here's a few pieces of technology. I don't know if they've really caught on, because as you can see, they were going to roll out quite a while ago, but again, like I said, this is all encompassing. It's just different ideas. Like, this is something that you could go and get your master's and PhD and study this one piece of technology the whole time and be working across a multidisciplinary team to see, working with engineering to make sure that the product is something that the athletes will actually wear. Does it actually work? Put that actually on athletes for a long time study, a longitudinal study, and see if it actually prevents concussions. Okay. I think Yep, here's another one. The check light is designed for athletes to determine basically if they can go back into the game or not. And you can see it's like a little skull cap that they wear. I don't, to be honest with you, I don't remember seeing this catch on. But it's not really about the specific pieces of technology. It's just more about the general field and how it's constantly, especially something like this. I mean, you guys know with athletics, American football, how much, how big that is in our culture. They're going to try and figure out everything they can, and there's going to be a lot of money, a lot of scientific research, a lot of development in there to try and create basically a safer game. And you can read about checklight as well. Communications and telemetry. Okay, this is just a couple examples, NASCAR and NFL. Again, this has come a long way, even farther than these couple examples, but basically it's just giving fans a way to interact a little bit more, to be a little bit more involved with what's going on if they can't be there in person, or even if they are there in person, they can see some different things. Like just I was watching some football recently, and they have different telecasts where you can go the game regular. You can watch from sort of more of a like a coach's view. You can watch a game more from, I think it was called Gamecast, where they have a bunch of stats at the bottom the whole time just running through, so you can see if more of a stats type person. This is just a couple of examples you can there. Couple examples of technology and exercise science. This is an Alter G reduced gravity treadmill. It's not really reducing gravity, but you get the point. But basically, you on these little waist, and you can see here she has the waistband on, and then you zip yourself into this, and you can choose what percentage of your body weight to run at. So run between 20 and 100% of body weight. Actually, I think that gets lower these days than 20%. But why would this be useful? Why would athletes even want? Well, especially have it a leg injury, there's not much you can do that exactly similar to run. Like say you have a bad knee injury, lower leg, whatever. You can bike and get in pretty good shape, but it's still going to be different than the actual running patterns and movements. So you want to try and get back to those similar sporting movements as fast as possible. So it might be more beneficial to run at 20% of body weight, so there's less impact than it would be to hop on a bike or elliptical or something like that. Okay, there you can see use in sporting context as compared to medical uses. Very expensive. We actually were going to get one of these at my old school. The athletic director wanted one, but it fell through. It was going to be a conjunction of strength conditioning and athletic training. Would have been cool, but yeah, they're more used in typically rehabilitation settings in my experience. Underwater treadmills, similar concept. It's gonna be on your joints. Obviously now you have fluid dynamics that come into play, but I think everyone pretty much knows that in water, you basically weigh less. I know that's not the right term, but so that's also something that can be used for return to play and rehab settings, but also for individuals that want to get some extra work and want to load on their joints. And you can click on this link for underwater treadmill actually training programs. Dynavision is another thing that we have in our lab. That's basically a reactionary device. If you guys haven't used this, you might get a chance to use this in assessments. There's different modes to this, but here you can see it basically loads anywhere on the board. And essentially, the easiest one, or I think the most common one, is 60 seconds. You can use whatever hand you want, and you have to touch each light and try and get as many lights as you can in 60 seconds. Different modes they have, like one interesting is they have a number, I think a 5-digit number that pops up on the screen. And as you're touching those lights, you have to read out the number. If you don't read out the number, I can't remember. It basically you subtract a certain amount of your touches. You can use that for action training. I know some teams that use it for reaction training, but also for return to play. You basically do that beginning of the season or off season. You get a baseline of what your reaction time is. And then if some kind of head trauma happens, such as a concussion or maybe a general illness, you can do this as one more tool in the toolbox regarding return to play protocol. Tracker, another thing that I don't know if we have in the lab anymore, but we had in the lab, and basically different balls, these different balls will start like say 1, 2, 3 are red at the beginning, and then they go through like a 15-20 second little not pattern, but they bounce all over the screen, and then you have to choose which ones were the red ones. And this is another way to improve reaction time to a certain extent as sort of a mental warm-up. Also, it can be used as a return to play potentially as well. This I'm not going to go on too much because this technology is, to be honest, above my head as far as this is more engineering than anything, but sports scientists, exercise scientists are involved in the process of creating this type of thing. But I think the most well-known case is Oscar Pistorius with these blades. So essentially he's a lower leg double amputee. So he had these blades made. Again, a huge, it was quite a bit of team members that came into play when they created these. And yeah, he was able to get the semifinals in 400 meters. Now this is a debate that people have. Well, he's not on his own legs. So as technology improves, is he actually getting more return from his lower legs than a normal leg? So that's a whole nother issue. Just wanted to touch upon these technologies. I know this was a while ago, but back when I was looking at PhD programs, I think it was Boston University, I believe, but they were doing some kind of exoskeleton type research in the military. And they had some kind of fund, or I reached out to see if they had funded PhD opportunity because I thought it was a cool concept. But so you can go into exercise science from a research standpoint. Here's another runner, younger guy with a similar type blade. And that's it. So let me go back. Just some things. I'm just going to list them right now as far as technology that we didn't really touch upon. I already touched upon IMU, so inertial measurement units. That would be similar looking to a GPS unit, but inertial measurement unit, it just uses inertia to tell you essentially how much you move and how fast you move. You guys may have seen these. Big thing with sports performance and strength conditioning is IMUs that can be attached to either the body, like I said with volleyball, or the barbell. So you can actually track, like say I'm doing a clean or squat or bench press, I can track how fast the bar is moving. So I can track velocity, average and peak velocity. If I put the weight in, I can track power. And that's very helpful when it comes to the concept of velocity-based training. So IMUs are a big one. Force plates are huge when it comes to technology and exercise science, specifically sports performance. And both, again, we're talking about assessments from a neural standpoint, physical assessments. Are they balanced from right to left leg? Return to play. Again, maybe they have a right leg injury. Now is their leg, are they essentially equal again so they can return to play? Vertical jump, just simple height, but also eccentric braking, concentric peak propulsion, different types of stuff. So force plates are very, very common as well. Let me try and think of some other ones that are very common. Different types of, similar to the time motion analysis, but it's a video camera. It's typically set up in, well, it's not necessarily even a lab setting, but imagine it's in a room and you can do different athletic movements. Again, based on just biomechanical assessments from a standpoint of more like a functional movement screen. So I'm going to do I'm going to do a reverse lunge, forward lunge, side lunge, rotational twist. I'm going to do scarecrows with my arm, internal rotation. I'm going to do a RDL, single leg RDL, a bunch of types of movement. And this is assessment to get baseline measurements and then to see what happens over time. Maybe one movement is more related to an injury. So if this pops red flag or a yellow flag, we have to watch that. So, Dari is the one that pops into my head the most. But also a lot of MLB teams use cameras that will be highlighted on the batter's box. And so they can actually see motion analysis, biomechanical analysis of the swing, and also pitchers. Again, to see biomechanical analysis, if is something off, did this guy get hurt because his elbow dropped X amount of degrees? So that's something really common. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Those are the ones that pop into my head. IMUs, motion analysis, biomechanical analysis, force plates is huge. Yeah, those are the ones. I'm coming from more of a sports performance background, but there's a lot of interesting tech also in the lab. I guess I can talk about those real quick as far as in the lab, what I've used. Tensiomyography, TMG it's called. This has some utilization in sports, but essentially it would be like this pen. Oh, let's see. And you would put the edge into your muscle, like say I'm going here in my bicep, and then I would put 2 electrodes on the outside of that pen, and I'm going to stimulate your muscle to contract, and this pen is going to go in, and it's going to measure how much it moves when it contracts, and how fast it moves, and how fast it relaxes. So that's something that's used both in the lab setting and sports performance setting, and we've had a paper published on that. Ultrasound is not a new piece of technology, but that's something that's utilized quite a bit in our lab. And there's a bunch of different things that are utilized in our lab. So again, that's why I say, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, get involved, participate in research, and ask questions from the principal investigator or the student investigator. What is this piece of technology? Why do you use it? All that stuff. And they'll explain it. They're great in our lab as far as explaining what it is, what we're looking for, all that stuff. So quick overview. Again, if you want to know about specific pieces of technology that we didn't touch upon today, just let me know and I'll give you my best resources that I can find regarding that.